my name is Megan. I'm a simulation engineer here at JUMP. I went to school to become a mechanical engineer with a biomedical concentration, but now I work here at JUMP, and we get to do a lot of cool things to help doctors or people who are wanting to work in the healthcare profession learn a little more and practice some of their different skills. So one of the tools we have to help us do that is 3D printers. You can kind of think of it like a hot glue gun. Except it uses plastic. So it heats up the plastic really hot and then it squirts it out a really fine nozzle and it draws a tiny little line of plastic. And it keeps going and going, drawing these tiny lines of plastic until it builds one layer, and then it moves up a tiny bit and does another layer of little plastic lines on top of that one, and it keeps going and going and going and building up these little plastic layers until you create whatever you programmed into the printer. So here at JUMP, one thing we 3D print a lot of is hearts. And physicians can use these if a patient is sick to look inside the heart and see what's going on before they have to do a surgery. And we also print other things. This one here is a model of a baby's rib cage. And the experiment we're going to do today is kind of going to focus on protein. So for this experiment, what you're going to need is some milk. You'll need vinegar. You're going to need a mold or a cookie cutter, something like that. You need 2 cups, something to stir with, a strainer, a lot of paper towels, and if you want, you can add some food coloring or dish soap. So the first thing you're going to need to do for this experiment is measure out 1 cup of milk. So if you're at home and you have access to a microwave, you can warm this milk up a little bit. About 30 seconds in the microwave is good. But if you don't have access to a microwave, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to heat it up for this experiment to work. Okay, at this point, if you want to add a little food coloring, you can. We'll make this one blue. So you don't need a lot. A few drops will be plenty. All right, so the next step is to add vinegar. We're gonna add 4 tablespoons of vinegar. So vinegar is a weak acid, and acid is gonna react with the protein in milk, and it's going to cause one of the proteins, called casein, to break apart. All right, so got our vinegar. So as these casein proteins start to break apart, they also start to stick together. So as they stick together, you'll see them start to kind of form these big clumps. And that's also, if you've ever heard of curds and whey, curds are the clumps of casein protein, and whey is kind of the watery stuff that's left behind. So we keep mixing this for a little bit, you'll see those really start to form. So you can let this sit for about a minute, will be long enough for most of the proteins to break apart. Next, we need to strain the curds from the whey. That's where you need your 2nd cup and a strainer. If you don't have a strainer, you can do this with paper towels. So just pour it through. And you can even see how the curds are kind of starting to clog up the strainer here. And if your strainer really gets clogged, you can use whatever you're using to mix with and kind of try and pull some of those curds out of the way. So as it's straining, you can see, once we get the casein out, how it's much more watery looking down here. So once you get most of that strained out, it's still gonna be pretty liquidy. So here's where the paper towels come in. You're gonna pour this onto the paper towel and you're gonna try and get as much of the liquid out as possible. So you're gonna keep dabbing and blotting at this, trying to get it as dry as you can. So when you put it on the paper towel, it's still gonna be pretty wet, so it's gonna try and stick to the paper towel. You wanna try and keep it in one clump, otherwise you're going to lose all of your plastic that we're trying to make here. As it starts to dry out, it won't stick to the paper towels quite as bad. You won't have as much trouble or have to scrape it back together quite as much. You want to get this as dry as possible because then you have to wait less time for it to dry once it's in the mold. So you just kind of smear it into your mold here. I'm gonna get it nice and full. And we'll just get it in the pumpkin. You just really want to make sure you get it all the way pushed down into the bottom so that you can see your shape when you're finished. All right, so once you get your molds full, you're gonna need to let them dry completely. So depending on how much water you got out using the paper towels, this could take anywhere from a couple of days to maybe up to 3 or 4. So next you just have to be patient. You wanna put these just at a room temperature place for them to dry. Once they're dry, if you want an even cooler special effect, you can paint them with a little bit of dish soap and then they'll glow under ultraviolet light. So here we have one that I made that I didn't use any food coloring, so it's just plain white. But if you shine a black light on it, you'll see that it glows. So that's just another cool effect if you're interested in that. All right, so this experiment is a fun way to experience some chemistry and take a closer look at some of the different proteins and different things that make up milk and every living creature. So I hope you enjoyed doing this experiment. And if you're interested in more, you can check out the Jump Innovations website. Bye.